stinks. Alright. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the KS Moto Cafe. This week's episode, I want to talk about my Vance and Hines slip-ons that I have right here and what I did to it. So, you may have already watched my review video and then you watched my installation video. However, what you haven't seen yet is my installation video for the quiet baffles, which you can see right there. And the reason why you didn't see that video was because I fucked it all up. And it took me a while to actually understand why I could not find too many of the installation videos for the quiet baffles to be put on to specifically the 3-inch slip-ons from Vance and Hines for my Iron 883. And it's because it was so freaking difficult. So for those who are here for the first time at KS Moto Cafe, thanks for coming. I do videos revolving around my Sportster Iron 883, which is my very first bike. As well, I do in-depth motorcycle reviews from the point of view of a new rider like myself. I'm still in my first year of motorcycling, and as I learn new skills and try different experiences from the motorcycle community, you guys can tag along by watching through the lens of my GoPro here. So again, today's topic is talking about the Vance and Hines 3-inch slip-on with the quiet baffles. And the reason why I got the quiet baffles was because the exhaust was slightly too loud for my neighborhood. I didn't get any official complaints at all or anything like that, but I think I was pretty close. Because I started going to work really early in the morning, I did feel a little guilty about warming up my bike in my quiet neighborhood around 6:30 or 7 a.m. and disturbing the neighborhood. So I started looking into the quiet baffles, and eventually I pulled the gun and ordered it from Fort 9. One thing I didn't know initially was that they don't come in pairs, so you actually have to order the part twice, and it's not very cheap considering it's just a tube with fiberglass wrapped around it. I thought it would be much cheaper. Once I got it, I sat on it for a while. I watched a bunch of YouTube videos and tutorials, or at least I tried searching for it, and I realized there weren't that many out there. But based on the impressions that I got from Amazon written reviews or Fort 9 written reviews, is that everyone complained about the whole installation process and that it doesn't fit. And that should have been my trigger to say fuck the neighbors and just go on with my loud pipes. But me trying to be a good guy, I decided to pull the trigger and hope that my experience wasn't as bad as the people that complained about it. Turns out I was wrong. So first thing you have to do, take out the exhaust, which is exactly what I did. And if you want to go through a step-by-step process of how to take it off and how to put it back on, watch my installation video a couple weeks back, and I'll tell you what specific size socket you need to use to take out the bolts and which bolts you need to take out. Inside there's a little screw that's holding the baffle, and once you unscrew that, the baffle can come out. Now if you're lucky, it will just slide out. But if you're not lucky, you kind of have to force its way out because there's a lot of carbon and debris buildup between the stock baffle and the pipe. And what I would recommend is using a rubber mallet and piece of wood to forcefully pull it out. Once the stock baffles are out, simply all you need to do is put the new quiet baffles in and slide it right in. What you'll notice though is that the quiet baffle comes with the fiberglass wrapping all around the baffle, and then it's saran wrap. Now, they specifically tell you to keep the saran wrap on because that's what's keeping it together, and once you put it in and turn on the engine and ride along, that plastic wrap will eventually burn off and your fiberglass will fuse to muffle the noise. So with that said, based on some of the videos that I was able to watch and some of the written tutorials online, they told me to put some grease on it before sliding it in, so it makes it a little bit easier to squeeze it in. That's exactly what I did, and to my surprise, it was going in fairly well. There were some tight points, but it wasn't bunching up, and I managed to push it all the way in. The only problem is, once you get it in, it's so fucking tight that the screw for your baffle to be screwed onto the actual exhaust, you need to line it up perfectly. And if you don't do that before you push it in, you're gonna have a hard time trying to twist that motherfucker while it's in there, and that's exactly what happened to me. So I had to MacGyver my way to twist baffle into position so that the thread of the screw can actually be lined up. And let me tell you, that was a piece of work. But it went in, I was able to put the screw in, So I was okay with that. And that's after 45 minutes of working on that one. So after taking a short break, I decided to go on to the second one, which I hoped that it would do the same. But as my nightmare continued, when I tried to do the exact same method for the second one, I started noticing that it was starting to bunch up. And that's when I should have pulled it back out. But I thought I could forcefully push everything in, and it just became a huge mess. Like the grease was everywhere, everything was bunching up, and there was no possible way for me to push the quiet baffle further in because it was starting to slide off the actual baffle as it was bunching up. So the concept was I had to take it back out. Problem is it was so fucking tight I couldn't use my hands to pull out. So luckily on the other side of the exhaust there's still a hole for me to stick a rod in and hammer out. So I used a hockey stick to one end, and then using my wooden mallet I was just hammering it out slowly. That took about an hour. So once that was out, I obviously didn't learn from my mistakes. I thought maybe I was sliding it in wrong, so I tried it again and it bunched up in the same location. So I had to pull it back out. And the third time what I did was I unwrapped the saran wrap. I took out a couple rolls of fiberglass to make the radius smaller. And then I wrapped it back up with new saran wrap from the kitchen and greased it up, slid her in, and actually went in all right. Now, understanding that because I took out some of the fiberglass wrapping on one of the pipe, I realized that it's probably going to be slightly louder than what it was meant to be. But to be honest, guys, if I didn't do that, I don't think there was any way for me to actually push it in there. So it was a necessary evil. Now, I'm going to show you guys a footage of the before and after sound of the exhaust. To be honest, when it started up in my garage, I could not actually hear the difference, and you probably won't be able to hear it as well from the shitty camera sound. However, once I went for a ride, that's when I actually started to notice the difference between the quiet baffle sound and the stock baffle sound. It was definitely drop of 15 to 20% of the exhaust noise. And normally when I'm at a stop, I could hear the exhaust going boom, 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 boom. And it's just banging. And I love that noise. But I could tell people around me are sometimes getting annoyed by that because it was kind of loud. And now with the quiet baffle, you can still hear it, but it's not as obnoxious. So you get less and less of those mean looks that I get from the four-wheelers making judgment of my loud pipes. So that part was gone. The other time when I noticed the sound was definitely lower was on the highway when I had my stock baffles. I never had an experience where the wind overtook my exhaust sound. However, now with the quiet baffles on the highway at around 100 kilometers per hour or 60 miles per hour, the wind noise takes over and I can hear the wind noise more than my exhaust. So there is definitely a change of noise level with the quiet baffles. It's still loud compared to my original stock pipes. So I did my part to be a good neighbor. It probably still is slightly noisier than what my neighborhood likes, but I think at this point I'm happy with where we're at in terms of fighting the noise level. Now, one thing to point out though is because the fiberglass will eventually melt away as I ride longer and longer, there's going to be a point where I'm going to have to redo this installation where I have to pull the baffles out and rewrap it with fiberglass and then reinstall it. So if I do end up keeping my bike for that long and I have to do that, I will make sure I'll do an installation video for you guys to watch. But until then, this is probably the last time I'm going to talk about my quiet baffles and my Vance and Hines 3-inch slip-ons. Was it worth it? Depends. If you are a type of person who is trying to be courteous for your neighborhood, I would say yes. But for those who like to live free and don't really care, don't bother spending extra money trying to put in the quiet baffles because I don't think it's worth it. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please donate your subscribe to my channel here so at least I can validate the fact that you guys enjoyed my content. And as always, ride safe, ride prepared, ride on.